Hello, everyone. Smatho 10 here, back for another edition of the DFS Down Under Show on a lovely Wednesday night here in Hobart Town. As you can see, I've checked out. Holiday time, Hef, Fiji in a couple of days. I don't know why I'm here. I have State of Origin playing in the background, and I just decided to just get the floral shirt out for you tonight, mate. How you been? What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, I don't have Fiji to look forward to, and unfortunately, we've got a bit of a glimpse under that floral shirt of the big rugby that you're rocking there, Smatho. It's been a hard way to start off the show, but you've got one show before you go away. Let's see you put in. I don't want you to see you get too distracted by the State of Origin. We'll see how we go this week.
Look, if I look to this way, I have my iPad here with the game on at the moment. So if I just decided to yell in a opportune time, I'm sorry.
How are your teams going tonight, Smatho?
Teams? Let's just move on to the thumbs up for tonight's edition of the show. Look, a lot of big shows tonight. We've got a lot to get through tonight, Hef, so let's just get stuck into it. Look, we'll keep an eye on the teams later, but it's just not looking good at the moment when you're six fans and you're 6 out of 6 at the moment. But we'll, still another 45 minutes to go, 50 minutes to go. So, look, straight in the thumbs up. Look, mate. Look, there was a great weekend of DFS, especially in the AFL. So much money in pools, and turns out one particular DFS player here in Australia had a weekend to remember. Hef, Chris Eddy, 999. Went whooshka on a Saturday and then whammo on a Sunday. I want to bring up his teams. We want to have a little chat about his teams. Look, we've got Saturday and Sunday up here. Look, yes, he did have a lot of teams in it, but he nailed it over the weekend. Let's talk about Saturday. We talked about GWS stacks. He certainly employed that particular strategy. Josh Kelly, Steve Cornelio with over 330 points combined between the two of them set him up for a big day for him, didn't he? Right.
Oh yeah, I saw he was on. He's pretty good on Twitter, Eddie. He'll get on there and talk about his teams a bit. And I did notice he played a lot of GWS stacks. Sometimes we might get too caught up with trying to be too contrarian at times, Smatho. This was a time where GWS versus Gold Coast was the obvious play, and he just really went to town on just a stack of GWS teams, and it paid off. Obviously, Moneyball was a bit different to Draft Stars. He played 7 GWS guys in that winning lineup. Oscar Baker was obviously a great player, but Jordan Roughhead there was probably the key to this one. 5%, 76 at 4,900 of that ruck position. So, yeah, what more can you say? He just he went for the obvious and he just crushed it.
Yeah. Even Cornelio had 12%. I was like, oh my goodness. When he's nearly turned up by half time, there was only 12% on him. I'm thinking, yeah, this is going to be a bit of a long day if you didn't have him. And a lot of people had Lockie Whitfield too, and he obviously got bashed up pretty much every quarter. So that kind of sunk a lot of teams as well. So a lot of sides that were on the right idea just didn't have the right pieces. And obviously Chris Eddy on Saturday smashed that one. And if you look at on Sunday side as well, we talked about Port stacks versus the Saints up in China, and obviously some sneaky little Essendon stacks over Carlton. And he just got that right balance here as well for us, Hef.
Yeah, he did. Obviously played a lot of teams, so he's going to fall on the right lineup a lot of the time. But that is the game. That is what the rules were set by Moneyball, and that's a really good team. Like, the team is not impossible for someone to land on without playing a heap of teams. We talked about Port backs against St Kilda. That was very doable. Robbie Gray with Rockcliffe not taking part was always going to get a lot of time through the ball, even though a heap of his points came at the end there with all the goals he was kicking. Dylan Clark, he obviously 46%. He was a pretty easy play at 3,500, and then just happened to stumble on the Vardy and Cruiser combination. Matty Cruiser, didn't he take Bill Chambers to task?
Oh, look, I had a lot of Bill Chambers, a lot of McKernan on Sunday, and that was I was trusting the stats, and then Cruiser was always in the front position, giving little tap outs. I'm thinking, oh, come on, guys, you need to get a bit more active. And then, that was hard to take. But coincidentally, I'm just looking at it now. He both scored 978 on the Saturday and the Sunday, which is pretty mammoth score, especially on Moneyball itself.
Yeah, well, that's the aim, isn't it? Now 978 will get us a win. I was on Instagram just before I came on the show too, Smatho, and I saw Tom Bell Chambers on there with Olympia Valence. So maybe his head is in other places. that could explain his shocking performance on Sunday. So fair play to Belcho. He does all right for himself.
Fair enough. Hang on. What? Someone scored Hef. Hang on. You just keep chatting away. You might actually do the 2 thumbs up here. Who scored a try?
No.
Oh no! Latrell Mitchell just got smashed.
Is he in your team? Smatho?
Look, I've got a fair few players in the team tonight. Yeah, look at Chambers all over Mitchell like a little teddy bear. Anyway,
Right.
all
Two
right.
thumbs up.
No, 2 thumbs up. Oh no, Chris Eddie. Emoji's on the screen. I've still got the jacket on. Have I still got the jacket on? Avocado. Oh dear, I forgot the avocado. Where's the Hawaiian shirt? Some of these producers, I tell you what. Bring that to me. Chris Eddie, look, you're filthy rich. 2 thumbs up. Hopefully, for the sake of the rest of the community. That's probably your last ones too. Love you. Right. Let's move on to the DS Draft Stars 200K KO Sports Live Final. And we had some great golden ticket winners here, Hef. Some names that obviously not familiar to myself. I'm sure they might be familiar to yourself, but I think Rody is probably one that he's in the chat on DS, so he's grabbed himself a ticket. But we've got Esh Clean 1990, who actually cleaned up his particular contest. Brob 98, Guido, Beetle Beast, and Brecker. There's some great usernames there for you, Hef. They're all got a golden ticket for you.
Yeah, good to see some new names, isn't it, Smatho? You've had some troubles getting an interview with him. If you want to have an interview with the great man, Smatho, get in touch with us here. We saw last week, comment on last week's show, Adam Baldacchino. He said he won a ticket, so we'd be keen for Smatho for you to have a chat with Adam. He's a keen viewer of the show, so get on to him. Adam, good job for you. We look forward to having a beer in Melbourne.
No problems. I might slide on my Facebook a bit later on. I'm not usually on Facebook, but I might see if there's any friend requests there.
Too many notifications.
Yes, of course. All right.
Try. No, sorry. No, we just had a spill. I was just telling the missus to dry it off. Anyway, continue.
Oh dear, this is trust.
What are we
issues.
up to? We got a new contributor this week, Smatho.
I've checked. I've checked out. I said at the start of the show, I'm going to check out soon. I'm going to really get checked out. Do you know that in Fiji, if you have a hibiscus on your ear, right, you're single for the ladies.
Wow.
Unfortunately,
Where's
I'm
your
not.
going, Smatho?
I
can guess one spot where yours will end up.
All right.
Kansas Combat Pigeon. You ever heard that username, Smatho?
No. Who is Kansas _Cambit_? I've seen him in the Moneyball contest. He likes to put a couple of head-to-heads out, and I'm thinking, as a new user of Moneyball over the last couple of weeks, I'm thinking, who is this bloke? And then, lo and behold, he has joined hashtag Team DFS. Explain what is that?
So I saw his first article on the site this week. He likes to get into the mental side of DFS, which is something not many of us have touched on. I know, Smatho, it's a very deep, dark hole with you that we don't really want to get too far into, but a different perspective from KCP, as we like to call him. So he's going to have a series, I think, running on the site. So check out his first article about the mental side of DFS, and it might be able to help you in areas that you might not have even thought about before.
I've actually read that article 3 times just to make sure I got his message, and it's a really good message about being level-headed, not going to places that you experienced before, because the brain is a very complex thing, and it can obviously play tricks on you many times. All right, so but yeah, bullshit. Is it a try? No, That's it. I'm moving on. Let's welcome to Team Kansas, and just be careful of the fellow contributors on the DFR website. If you have any troubles, just come and see me. All right. So we've been going off a bit skew here because I want to talk about what happened over the weekend in DFS. We've had these massive pools over the weekend. Moneyball tried a few things, and obviously the feedback was, I would say, plentiful for most users. I want to get your opinion, Hef, because obviously we've been playing DFS for around 3 or 4 years now, and we enjoy DFS. And as you said before in the couple of shows, you've been trying max entry, you've been trying a couple in, trying new sports and things like that. Obviously, we can say our own feedback, and we'll probably take our team DFR hats off tonight, and we'll just have a chat about what actually happened the weekend and your experiences of what happened.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of chatter. We're talking max entries basically here, aren't we, Smatho? Moneyball had some huge caps. We're talking 400 teams in the Saturday. Is it the Saturday one? And Chris Eddy obviously won with 340 teams. And DFS Twitter sort of lit up a bit on Sunday night for various reasons, and I got all sorts of advice, I guess, once I dipped my toe into that discussion. I don't have a great opinion, basically, on what the sites should or shouldn't be doing. The reason I got involved was I think I've said this before, I think the max entry guys get almost persecuted because they're putting in so many teams, and people think maybe they aren't, even not worthy of winning. They only win because they put so many teams in. So I just thought I'd stick up for them. I'm not mates with any of them. Like, I've never talked to Chris Eddy in my life, but to hear people say, oh, he's not much of a player, he's just putting a heap of teams in, I thought that was wrong. One thing I like about Moneyball is they've just pulled all this money from nowhere. They're putting a lot of their own money in to try and build their pools. Fair enough, it's hard to compete with the best players in that massive tournament. And Chris, when he's nailing those teams as well as he did, that's going to be hard to compete with. But what about Stimpy Friday night? He only put 10 teams in, took off a pretty big prize in the 75K. Those prize pools wouldn't be there without the big players max entering. But let's not forget the $5 comps we had all weekend. They all had, most of them struggled to even half fill. So there's just so much overlay there. And considering Moneyball were borderline irrelevant a month ago with 5K pools when DraftStars was running 50K, for them to now be putting on the same sort of size prize pools and even bigger in spots, but to still have those 5K tournaments for the smaller players, I just think they probably deserved a bit more support than maybe they got from certain sections on Sunday night.
Look, I have an analogy for you, Hef, and you can probably rubbish it if you want, but it's like living in a country town with your IGA down the store, right, down the road, and you can buy a can of Coke there for $2, and you think you're beauty, it's great. And then all of a sudden, this IGA got bought out. Well, I wouldn't say bought out, but let's say Woolworths moved into town, right? And it's huge products around, all this cash around, all that. You go down to buy a can of Coke and it's $5. And you're thinking, oh, it's a can of Coke and it's still great, but it's cost me $5. So I can understand that kind of mindset of guys who've been playing there for years and years, or weeks and weeks, or et cetera, and not seeing their contests that they'll chuck a couple of dollars in just for the fun factor. Now, for myself and yourself, I actually really love that $5 contest because you actually got a $650 first prize. And for someone who's been playing $2 minis for years and years and only just starting to branch out to more contests, I thought that was a great, great contest. And I think I had a great sweat on the Geelong Sydney game where I was in the top 10 for the majority of the game. I think I'm actually on a real good winning prize pool here. But look, I said, personal opinions, I was kind of gutted I didn't see him back in the lobby again. And sure, I'll go back to $2. And then obviously, bang, a 10K Monday contest comes out for $2 entries, which is fantastic. When you think of, minis on a Friday night on draft, so only get to around the 3K, a 10K mini is awesome. So I can see the feedback from the guys itself, and I can see your thoughts as well, Hef.
Yeah, that 10K $2 mini is a 20 cap, max 20 entries. That's going to need a miracle to fill. So there's going to be money to be shared around the community there. That's an unbelievable tournament for Moneyball to put on for the smaller players. Those $5
And,
tournaments, I had a bit of luck on Saturday night. I won the D's Crows one.
Yep.
And that actually paid $1,300 for first. So I would have had to come top 5 in one of the main events to get that sort of prize money. So like there's 4,800, well, in theory, 4,800 entries in the main, and then you can beat out, say, 600-700 in one of the smaller tournaments and get a similar level of prize money. Like the options are still there. Double ups. I know you put me onto the double ups, Smatho, because they put some $5,000 double ups on that didn't fill 300 runners, and 250 teams were getting paid. There's just so many options available, and Moneyball's they're not just pouring it all into the main events, they're putting it into all these different options. I've got mates who have come along. The reality is that some people just want to play for big prize pools, and I've got mates who've never played before, and they saw, I could win 10,000 if I put the right team in, and they put one $15 team in, and now they're on the books at Moneyball, and I've got no doubt in future they will probably keep playing one or two teams in the main, or they might move into the $2 if they want to play some more teams and as they get more into it. But it's those huge prize pool numbers which are going to attract new players. And unfortunately, you can't get that at this stage of the industry without allowing some pretty big caps. So I don't think the max entries will stay that high forever. I think they're constantly trying things each week to see what works. I don't really see the negativity around it all. Surely it's a good thing.
Yeah, look, it is a good thing. Look, clearly Moneyball, as a new user, they are listening to their customers. They are, pretty active in their chat box, and obviously they've been inundated with new users trying to get themselves verified and their accounts all set up, ready to go. So obviously it's a very, very busy time for them. So it's going to be interesting as these bye weeks come along now, because we've only got 6 games of AFL. We've got the Cricket World Cup. We've got this game called Rugby League going on as well. Golf is going pretty well. It's going strength to strength with US Open next week. So it's a great time to be a DFS player here in Australia. And just to, in DFR, obviously with our resources, our articles, it's all free on the Daily Fantasy Rankings website. Look, we're doing the show at the goodness of our heart on a Wednesday night, where I could clearly be watching, the best 26 players in rugby league right now. But look, I think it's fantastic. Yeah, sure. People have their own opinions, and it's great to hear opinions, and I'm sure they'll continue as long as we both shall live, Hef.
Yeah. Everyone has their views, and that's fair enough. And that's how things are improved, by different views, and some things will stick and some things won't. Like you talk about Australia versus Windies tomorrow night, $20,000. Like that's unbelievable.
Yeah, breaking news. Yeah, out of nowhere, but it's huge. It's like 3 weeks ago, you might get a $500 contest for it. Now we're paying for $20K. It's unbelievable. I think we should just enjoy it while we have it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. All right. But exactly. Hey, I'm supporting it. You're supporting it, and all of our viewers tonight are having a great time doing it as well. All right. Okay. Speaking of views, I want to talk about footy. 6 games, bye rounds are with us now. Pain in the ass for AFL Fantasy and Supercoach. Even the little Supercoach guy came out tonight and tweeted say, "Hey, you should sign up for have a crack at 1,000 a week." I'm thinking, hang on, that's just DFS in a nutshell. So let's get straight on the footy. There's Friday night footy, which is Richmond versus Geelong at the G. Currently, Geelong have a 9.5 line favourite to themselves with a lowish line of 159.5. Moneyball, big $75,000 contest for a 15 entry, and then Draft Stars came along and said, "Yep, we'll do 75,000K as well." So 150K on a Friday night, Hef. What a time to be alive! And then you've got the qualifiers for the golden ticket as well on Draft Stars. Also you got your 2, so clearly everyone else has a chance now to grab a couple of tickets. Look, being Wednesday night, team news, we probably assume that Gary Ablett will be back. And also there's talk of Reece Stanley coming back in after pulling out on Saturday, ruining a few of my lineups. Richmond still have a few injuries on the shelf, including Nan Curvis and Lambert. I think he's in a bit of strife as well. So I'm not expecting any changes, maybe some minor stuff for that one, but we'll get the teams tomorrow. Hef, what do you reckon so far? It's actually a really good game on paper in terms of where the AFL is sitting. They've got a marquee matchup here on Friday night, and the cash is there for everyone to compete for.
It's massive, this game, isn't it? Like Geelong's 2 games clear on top. Is there any complacency there? They can seal the bye. They must, if they drop a game, they're still going to be top of the ladder. You just sort of wonder if that ever sort of enters the mind. Everyone thought the Tigers were back last week until they ran into North Melbourne. Now, was that just a case of the new coach curse that sent them packing? Or are there genuine cracks still there at Richmond, which we all thought they were when Rance went down at the start of the year, and then they lost a few more players to injury. They still don't have Jack Rewalt, obviously, and a couple others, but geez, those North Melbourne forwards really got hold of that back line. So this is a really good match to see where Richmond's at. I think they might be able to get Geelong at just a tiny weak moment, but whether they're good enough though, Richmond, I don't know. So I think that line 9.5 for Geelong, I think that's a little on the light side. I've got to be with Geelong.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Looking at the resources on the Daily Fantasy Rankings website, which is obviously free to use, I looked up the rucks to start with. As always, I look up rucks, and obviously we talked about last week how the younger Soldo and Callum Jones have been filling in as well, have been leaking points, but they actually did a pretty good job last week. And then obviously with Geelong, we talked about Geelong and Sydney were going to bash each other in the rucks, and then old Sinclair got bashed up by Zach Smith, something good. So those kind of resource kind of takes didn't quite pan out for us again. But I'm thinking we might have to trust the data again this week with Stanley back.
Yeah, at least we'll know Stanley's playing this time. Like that's really
I know.
That's driven me insane. Fancy doing that in 2 of the best matchups you've ever seen, Stanley. But we'll know he's back. But in terms of Moneyball, I don't think it really matters whether they play Stanley or Smith because Soldo's still 4K. He touched up Goldstein last week. He outscored Goldstein 63-60. It's pretty hard to go past Soldo in the ruck. So we're going to have to try and work out some different options to differentiate and try and get the win. Yep.
I've also got to mention as well, both sides scored pretty low on fantasy points last week. I think Richmond only had 1340 odd last week, and Sydney held Geelong to around 1470. So I'm not expecting 7-8 tons from both sides in this particular matchup, but I think your take with Soldo is pretty good. I think you just got to lock and we'll move on. Let's talk about defenders. Some good defenders here in this particular matchup. We've got Duncan, who's on Draft Stars, but obviously he's a centre here on Moneyball. Tommy Stewart and your man Basher Hooley been going pretty well. I've had a look at the old player scores on the DFR website, and I've seen that Stewart hasn't actually scored over 90 in the last 4 games, which, if you do your homework there, you might actually scare a few from his particular price point. And then if you're playing Draft Stars, Duncan found himself forward as well. So he had a lowish score where he was predicted to go pretty high projected. What do you think of the defenders here, Hef? Some good options here.
Yeah, I didn't really like them too much. Stewart's very consistent, but like you're saying, that ceiling hasn't been there lately. Hooley, the price hasn't caught up to Hooley. 8,900 still. He's just like he looked like he was just out cold 5 minutes into the game last week. It looked like it was going to be no more for Hooley, and next thing you know, he's on 48 at quarter time.
Yeah,
just magnificent basher for all the fantasy faithful. Excuse me, 8,900 for the scores that he's been putting out is great, but like if you just looked at it at the start of the year and said I'm going to be paying 8,900 for Hooley halfway through the year, you wouldn't be thinking that's a great play at all. So it's a tough matchup against the Cats. If you want to trade down there and maybe avoid Hooley, it's very possible Hooley only gets 80 or 90. But I still think he's going to be pretty popular because it's hard to come up with too many reliable backs, and he looks the only one who can really go big, Hooley. Looking elsewhere, maybe someone like Jordan Clark you can use there around the 5K mark. He seems to be running all over the place, Jordan Clark, but he can get up to 80 or 90, and that's good score for his salary. I don't love the backs, so I'll probably just be rotating a few different ones through and concentrating in other areas.
Yeah, right. Let's talk about the midfield area then. Tough time. Four midfielders that I
Do you think there was a try there?
By the way, I've got a producer in my ear telling me there's a try time, and it's bloody half time of the footy. So there's four midfielders of note here: Kelly, Dangerfield, Duncan the Moneyball, and obviously Dustin Martin. If you look at builds, you probably only can squeeze 2 in, possibly 3 if you go real scrubs and stars. What do you think? We've just concentrate on Geelong mids, or see if we can diverse with a couple of Richmond ones?
Look, I prefer to be with Geelong mids. You can really get hold of Richmond through the midfield. Danger and Kelly are the obvious ones just at the price because they're both $1,000 cheaper than Duncan, so they're going to be chalky. Probably for good reason. It gives you so much more flexibility if you go with them instead of Mitch Duncan. Maybe there's an opportunity there if you play Mitch Duncan instead and he really outscores the other two. But look, Kelly had a massive game against Richmond last year. He's very hard to go past him, Kelly. But he did have that shocker a couple of weeks ago, so the opportunity's there. Cameron Guthrie has been up and down. He's still under 7,000. He has been having games where he's just pure midfield. So he's high risk but high reward. Cochin at 6,900. I don't love Cochin as a fantasy option anymore, but he's definitely capable of getting 100. So at that sort of price point, he's in play. Him and Dusty, as always, they're the two obvious midfielders for Richmond.
Now, I've looked at the resources as well and tells me that Richmond, look, they're tightening up the backs and they're tightening up the midfield, but the forwards are still leaking a lot of points. So I want to be on Geelong forwards here. Back on Richmond, Liam Baker, his last 2 weeks have been really, really good. I thought it was a flash in the pan. His first game when he scored a ton, I thought, no, completely fade him. He's come back and somehow got a high score. So hopefully I won't see his regression because I'm not going to him again because he's going to be really highly owned because of his price. His salary hasn't really crept up to where it should be in the last 2 weeks. So what do you reckon the forwards? Am I on the right track with a bit of Geelong stacks or a couple of those?
Yeah, I think you are. Like Ben Brown just ripped him to pieces last week, and Mason Wood got involved as well. And then our man Keem Zurhar, the Bull, we love his work, and he just dominated them. So I thought I didn't really want to play too many Kangas forwards last week, so I still thought Asprey and Grimes are two of the better defenders in the comp. But they just, when that ball came in high, they had no one who could go with Ben Brown. So I'm sure they would have reviewed that during the week, but it still looks like the opportunity's there for Tommy Hawkins, who is capable of having really big games. It doesn't happen too often, but the ceiling is there. Parsons had some mid-time a couple of weeks ago. He didn't get much of it last week, but he's one of the cheaper options, and even his 59 last week is a pretty good score. It is 4,100. Parfitt keeps running around half forward through off a wing, that sort of stuff, so he's in play. Looking at Richmond, we've got Bolter and Baker. They've been the popular guys the last couple of weeks. Very good in the air down back Geelong, so I'd much prefer to play Liam Baker with his running role against Noah Bolter. Blixav has been unbelievable this year, so he'll probably go to Tom Lynch, but they have enough taller options to make life very hard for Noah Bolter. So Geelong forwards, I'll probably be heavy here, and then that'll let me open up through the back line to try and come up with something. But yeah, I'm with you on Geelong forwards.
Cool. I was nice. Like Harry Taylor's like a forward, isn't he?
Yeah, yes. Yeah. You know, I love playing very heavy backline stacks every now and then, Smatho. This game you've got Harry Taylor as a forward. You've got Mark Blixars and the Irishman O'Connor. They're both available as midfielders.
Oh, right.
You can put them all together with a couple of backs like Stewart, Jordan Clark.
Do a bit of Tui.
Indeed. You got your flex there as well. You could really just load up a massive Geelong backline and hope we have one of those games like Richmond-Collingwood earlier in the year where Collingwood just went back and forth in the backline.
Just around the pockets and
it's not about just picking the players, Smatho. It's just working out these different lineup ideas, and you can be a bit different everyone on that basis.
All right. Well, let's move on to Saturday. There's a 3-game slate here on Saturday, which is pretty good because we've got Carlton and Brisbane. Carlton's got a new coach. Gold Coast playing North Melbourne in the twilight game, and then you've got the Saturday night game of Adelaide and the Giants. Moneyball have gone $100,000 GPP prize pool. It will set you a $20 entry. Draft Stars have gone the $50K route with a $15 entry. Obviously, the golden ticket will be on the Saturday night game. So another single slate, which is the Adelaide and the Giants. We've been talking about Carlton and we've been talking about Gold Coast are the two teams to attack when it comes to these particular slates. Carlton, let's talk about Carlton first. Well, Essendon put on 8 tons on them last week in the wet. All right. And I looked at the tackle stats and Carlton had more tackles and Essendon still managed to get 8 tons up. All right. So I'm thinking, like we've been talking in previous shows, we can attack the studs like Neil and Zorko, but the guys that sit underneath, like your Reece Mathesons and your Robinsons and, McCluggages and all that, surely they get a little bit of a boost.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, we take on Carlton. There's a few different points to think of now. New coach theory. We saw how strong that was last week with the Roos.
Let's hope they actually win a game. If we're sacking a coach and winning the game, let's anything.
Yeah. I struggle to have as much faith in Carlton as North Melbourne last week, but that's there. Ed Curnow tagged Zach Merritt for a half last week. I don't know why it was only for a half, but thankfully Zach got off the chain in the second half. But so maybe Curnow's going to go to a bloke like Lockie Neal or Zorko. Zorko's been pretty easy to get lately.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Tag
Rucks have been a gold mine against Carlton all year until last week. We touched on Bill Cho's off-field activities. Maybe that's a reason. But also, it's not as easy as just locking in Brisbane because they brought Archie Smith in last week. And he was actually all right, Archie Smith. I don't know how long Steph Martin's got to go, but it's very hard to play Steph Martin with Archie Smith in the team. So that's something to think about as well. And then Louis Taylor is one of those guys who might get brought up by the rising tide. At 100 last week, he's only 5,900. He might be quite chalky off that. This is the type of player I tend to avoid when they've coming off a big game because they're so inconsistent and he's not much of a footballer, let's be honest. But Moneyball doesn't move quick enough price-wise, so he's still pretty reasonably priced. But if I'm looking for a fade, I'm probably still happy to fade Louis and hope we get one of those 50s instead of the 100s.
Yep. All right. Then obviously we've got the Suns, all right, which means a bump for North Melbourne players after an impressive game last week over the Tigers. I actually went on the DFR website again and looked up player scores, and you'd be able to go to 2018 and look at previous scores versus teams. And I looked up North Melbourne versus Gold Coast, and I saw that Goldstein went bananas for 130 odd, and Witts had 120 as well. And then there were 6 other North players that had 100s, and then we had Scotty Thompson of all players had 121. All right, so another 3 players had 90 plus. So it's a trend from last year that's continuing on to this year. So surely North could be a sneaky stacks instead of the Brisbane stacks this week. What do you reckon? I reckon that's a great take.
Oh, yeah. No, anytime you get to take on Gold Coast is good. We saw what GWS did to them last week. But have you seen the weather forecast, Smatho?
Yeah, I have. I think it's 27 in Denaroo, and I think sunny skies. I think there's a thunderstorm on Tuesday, but I think it's just a little brief shower.
You look after your hibiscus, mate. But on the Gold Coast, there's some rain forecast. I don't think it's going to be as bad as when these two teams played in round 1 last year, and it was like hurricane style. But if the rain is going to come, those 3 to 10 mils forecast, we know what Gold Coast is like. Sometimes it starts to rain and the whole ground's underwater. But you've got those big forwards like Ben Brown, Mason Wood, Nick Larkey, all pretty well priced. But if the rain hits, you're going to be reaching for the spew bucket with those blokes because that'll just take their marking power out of play. So that's really something to look forward to is keeping an eye on the weather. One thing, obviously, against Gold Coast is the big pigs in the middle are just ripping them apart. Canelio, Kelly last week. Every week, the really gun midfielders get a hold of Gold Coast. Remember Clayton Oliver a few weeks ago. So we're looking at Zeba was back in the middle last week. You'd have to think he's the perfect bloke just to destroy them in the middle with Cunnington, Higgins again. They're the guys that I want to be looking at more so than the flankers. We noticed Holman tagged Whitfield last week. I wouldn't expect him to tag a bloke like Jared Pollock, or they probably won't even use him as a tagger. But those inside midfielders just destroy Gold Coast every week. So I'm definitely looking there. If that rain does come, I want to be playing Wits as my ruck. I think he's going to be really safe, and he can dominate Goldstein. Like Ivan Soldo.
Like Ivan Soldo, yeah. Now, obviously, we've got the last game on this Saturday night, which is obviously there's tickets up for the qualifiers as well. So let's touch on this particular one. I can see that GWS prices are creeping up because of the performances last week, but there are still some holes here in terms of GWS where we can attack. What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, we wouldn't take much notice of this game if it wasn't for the qualifiers, Smatho. Obviously, I can sit back, I don't have to worry, but you can get involved.
Sorry, I've checked out. I'm literally in Fiji on Saturday nights, but anyway, I'll see if I can sneak one in before I go.
I can't get online in Fiji.
Well, we'll soon find out. We'll soon find out if the old
do you have any money left
geolocation let me out. Funny story though. Before I actually did team on the Eurostar between France and London, and DraftStar works there. So surely it might work in Fiji.
Well, for all us battlers, it'll be at home. You don't really have to worry about that sort of thing. But how's Origin going, Smatho?
Yeah. Oh, hang on. New South Wales are attacking, and Ponga with a lovely little take again. Oh, tackle break and tackle 10 minutes. Okay, it's 8-0. Keep going.
What was your tip on the match, Smatho? Over 33.
Yeah, this could break wide open very shortly if we get a couple of tries.
Magnificent. A few quick thoughts on Adelaide GWS. Perryman's still cheap. Pay the Perryman. GWS, like you said, they're priced up in the midfield, but it's annoying because you can really get hold of Adelaide in the midfield. So Canelio is going to be pretty obvious. Everyone wants to play him after his 190, but Canelio, Kelly, Hopper gets involved. You don't have to worry about Whitfield. A great spot for Toretto to bounce back. Keep an eye out on De Boer. There's no Rory Sloane, I don't think, so he would be the ideal target for De Boer. So now does he go to Rory Laird or one of the Crouch boys if Matt comes back? So that's a tricky one. I'd be a little bit scared of him going to Rory Laird, actually, because he's quite useful as a forward, Matt De Boer.
Yeah. No, that's probably the case, but we'll have to keep an eye on Sloane, but it's doubtful he will get up, but you never know. You never know. All right.
Avocado.
Actually, the avocado has just shot in my ear. Said some guy who's been in out of the team all year. His name is Gibbs. Bryce Gibbs. Wow. Gibbs. Hot take from the back. What do you reckon, Hef? Bryce Gibbs.
Matt Crouch comes back into the team. Is Bryce Gibbs even going to be playing?
I think he may be sample.
Maybe. Well, I'll have a chat with the avocado next week while you're got the hibiscus behind the ear, Smatho. Just one thing on this slate, like maybe just don't overthink it. Just pile into those North players and those who's playing Carlton again.
Yep.
Brisbane. Just go Chris Eddie and just play the obvious and
keep it simple, stupid. Look, look, with 100K, you're going to find there's going to be a lot of ownership with a lot of great plays. So sometimes good chalk is really good. But look, we'll see. Find it come late Saturday night. Whoever takes out, is it 10K? I think it's 10K for the winner. So good luck for those who are putting in their entries for that one. Let's briefly go on to Sunday because there's obviously a one-game slate on the Sunday, which is the Swannies versus West Coast. 50K on Moneyball for a $15 entry, and DraftStars have a 40,000K GPP. More golden tickets as well. Hef, poor old Bunga Hearn is no good, been ruled out already. But his price was pretty much getting pretty too expensive to get him at that particular spot, especially against the Swannies. Looking briefly, Vardy's still underpriced compared to Callum, who had a great cock up last Saturday. Why you reckon?
I'm getting some nuclear vibes from you, Smatho.
Try time. Queensland are
This is
in.
fair dingham.
Fair dingham. Gafusi's in.
Wow, you're a Queensland man, aren't you, Smatho?
If you're not from New South Wales, you go for Queensland. Everyone knows that.
Oh, yeah,
Maybe it's not a try. I don't know. It still says 0. Oh no, it's not a try. It's a tackle in the goal. Oh wow. Hef, talk about footy, please.
Well, you talk about Vardy. He's
crap. I've checked out.
He's going magnificently, Vardy. Geez, you've grown up the last month, Smatho. You're sitting back in your floral shirt, you're having a beer, like you're all ready for Fiji. Look out, Dinaroo. I reckon Hickey might be coming back from injury. I really hope that doesn't happen because I like the current mix of the Eagles with Vardy in the ruck and Oscar Allen pinch hitting. I just think it makes them a lot more mobile. And Vardy's actually been surprisingly good and hard to score against. So he's still only about 5K. I think taking on Sinclair has been fantasy gold this year. I don't see why that's going to change. I don't have too many opinions on this game other than I looked at the forecast as I always do with the Eagles and it looks nice and sunny. The thing is, we've talked about SCG being not much of a home ground advantage for Sydney, but the last time West Coast won at the SCG, Ben Cousins was playing. So it might be a 0-0 draw. I don't know. I'd like to think West Coast could win, but that's a pretty bad record. What's going on?
Try time.
Oh, they've paid it. Good to see you're in there. It's working well.
Oh, look at it. It's just going. Oh, look at it. Just
is that stream legal, Smatho?
Well, even the crowd don't know. Because of the bloody choppy. We have a try. Corey Oates.
Excellent. You've got 20 points to go, Smatho.
We still have 20 points to go in 20 minutes. 30 minutes. All right. Sorry, we're getting right off track. I've checked out. Go on.
Colin last week with the Swans. He's still pretty cheap. But you can get the Eagles down back, so maybe link up Colin with someone down back.
Yeah. Now, I want the avocado to go a step back for me. I want to go back to my sneaky. We've kind of missed the sneaky and that excitement of the non-try into the try. What a try that was from Oates. My sneaky for this week, we talked about the Kangas, and I see Higgins here on Bet Easy. Get on the over for his fantasy production. It's just over 100 points. I see a 115, 120 out of Higgins against who are they playing again, Hef? The Kangas. The Gold Coast. That's it, Gold Coast. So that's my sneaky of the week. I know it's a $50 but surely that's pretty good. Anyway, Thanks, Avocado, for putting that up for me. Okay, that's Sunday, and then meanwhile I'm sipping cocktails on here on a Monday. It's Queen's birthday footy, the big freeze. Melbourne and Collingwood, both sites have just gone whooshka for this one as well. $75,000 on Moneyball for a $15 entry, okay? And then Draft Stars have $100,000 for a $20 entry, and obviously more golden tickets as well. Lot of money for one game of footy on a Monday, Hef.
You have a spare hibiscus there, Smatho, because if I win, I'm coming over.
Are you coming over?
Coming over. Do the show live.
If you win, you can come over to Fiji. We'll do the show live from the one. I've
only been to Fiji once, and that was down the Coral Coast on VJ Singh's golf course. So we'll go play golf down there if I win on Monday. What do you reckon?
Well, we'll
do the show.
Golf. We'll get a driver. We'll get one of those guys with a driver. We'll get it on a van, and we'll just go. Do the show on location. Sounds good. But that's a dream. Collingwood are now starting to lose a few players out of their team. They've lost Beams this week to a serious hip injury. They still don't have Taylor Adams. There's talk that Brodie Grundy might be out for this particular game, which is going to ruin everyone's super coach. So suki la la there. This could be a spot to Melbourne just go, okay, this is our grand final for the year. Let's knock off the pies on Queen's birthday. What do you reckon, Hef? A little Melbourne a sneaky chance?
Yeah, it's hard to give it much chance. I think there'll be a big crowd there, won't there, on Monday?
Pump them up.
There's been a crowd at training too, from what I hear for Collingwood.
All right.
So they'll be used to the big crowd. Grundy, I really hope Grundy gets up because that'll be the unstoppable force meeting the immovable object. Grundy versus Gawn, best ruck matchup of the year. Last 2 times they've played, Grundy has turned up both times to Gawn's 82 and 70. So I'd have to lean to Grundy if they both take place. Obviously, Gawn will. Just a matter of whether Grundy gets there. D's give up a lot of points to the midfields, and no one can capitalise on that like the Pies. Well, the D's leak to everyone, so Pie stacks are going to be super popular. They're probably going to be quite successful. It's just so hard to get away from the Pies here. And they've got so many blokes like Chris Mayne running around getting hundreds every week. Callum Brown seems to bob up and score 100. Stevenson and Hoskin Elliott, they just got so many of those mid-price. Levi Greenwood, all those backs always seem to be about 10, 11,000. So even though a Pie stack might be the one, there's still so many different options that you can sort of differentiate a bit and not just go with the tried and true side bottom Pendlebury, Trelaw. Yeah, one name to look at is Braden Sear. I reckon they'll bring the bear in to replace Beams. He's going to be pretty well priced, having not played all year. He's probably going to be pretty popular, but he's a cheaper guy that you can pop in your lineups if you do want to. Well, you're going to have to spend up on the ruck anyway, no matter who it is. So look at Braden Sear if you're trying to save a bit of cash.
Now, I'm going to pull this out in a second. Look, those are great. That's great chat. It's been a great chat here on the show tonight. As always, check out all of our previews on the dailyfantasyrankings.com.au website. Make sure you check out our free resources as well. Let's move on. The Festival of Cricket is on in England, and obviously the big news tonight, we touched on it earlier, we were just talking about little $2,000, $3,000 slates in the cricket and, putting a couple of little entries in come 7 o'clock every evening. And then, hello, $20,000 tomorrow on Moneyball. Without warning, what are we going to do with this, Hef?
I hope you're all packed already, Smatho, because we have to bunker down tomorrow night and get some teams in for this one. Aussies and the Windies. I'm loving the World Cup. I thought 50 over cricket was dead, but it's amazing how interesting these games can be when they actually mean something. I love seeing Jason Roy get out the other night against the Packies. Did you watch that one?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, he did spit it, didn't he?
Plum LB, and then he's referred it, and then he's talking to the umpires because one of the little Packies has said something to him as he's walked off. He just wouldn't get off the ground. It was just a car crash, and it was so good to watch. I love seeing the Poms lose. That Afghanistan, Sri Lanka was even a great game. Bangladesh knocked off the Saffers. It's been a wonderful World Cup already if you hate England and South Africa like I do.
Yeah.
The Saffers are getting smashed again tonight, actually. They're 5 down already.
All right.
But, yeah, get set for Aussies and the Windies because the Windies are dangerous. I watched them get 400 odd in that lead-up match, and they got such a long batting lineup that if a few of them get going, they can just take the game away from you. So I'm a little bit nervous for the Aussies. The bowling's got a couple of holes. I don't want to see Kudanov straight up and downs if Dre Russ gets going.
No. If it's a little green top, we win the toss and send them in. Have a bit of faith.
Oh yeah, if it's a green top, probably right.
But as I tweeted out a few days before the World Cup started, the DFR. I did say I'm blowing the own trumpet here, but the resources on the DFR website, we received so much great feedback about the statistics, the ground analysis, the previous fantasy scores from the last 10 matchups as well. It's been really, really good. And even one thing I looked up earlier today, we're at Trent Bridge tomorrow for the Australia game. A lot of runs scored there at Trent Bridge, but then you look at the last game and Pakistan got rolled for 100. So it's a very variance game, old cricket. It's not exactly AFL variant style, but if you want to do your time and do a bit of research, jump on the website and look at the previous scores. You'll be able to look where the batting positions are and what the scores and it's great. It's free and it's bloody fantastic.
We've had Bubba Luck was on. He had a good result on Twitter. Gave us a shout out. There was another guy.
He reached out to us this morning. He won the mini last night. Yeah,
mini There's people who
even myself, I got fourth in the England game because I had a bit of Josh Butler at number 6, and he went bananas. So
yeah. Doesn't if that's not the best advertisement, Smatho cashing in the cricket, then I don't know what is for the cheap. So it's a good time zone too. Like I don't watch all the games, but watch the end of the first innings and then go to bed and wake up and see how you went. So
now, if you need Origin update.
Yep.
iPad's died. So, so I'm kind of going in blind here. I don't want to get on this PC and start mucking around with my scores. But
over they go. Queensland in. Smatho.
Thanks.
Where's the charger? You have technical issues every week.
It's like listening to golf on the radio.
I've held you off this all night, Smatho, but you've got 10 seconds. Give us your best Patrick Cantlay.
Canadian Open. 10K on DraftStars. Get amongst it. It's tough, this one, because you got the big 3 guys in McIlroy and Brooks Koepka is back and Dustin Johnson on there. But US Open's next week, Hef, so I'm going the full fade on them. If they win, so be it. But they got their minds at Pebble Beach, and if they get their schedules right, Hef, they can watch the Warriors game 4 after choking after the first 2 going to games. So I'm going back. My pick this week is Matt Kuchar after his miscut last week. Kuchar and maybe a bit of Webb Simpson as well. I might go a bit each way on him. Pretty tough this week. There's a lot of guys I just don't know. A lot of Canadians in there. And but yeah, I'm looking forward to Pebble Beach next week. But unfortunately, Hef, as we're going to sign off the show very shortly, I will be missing in action next week as I am spending the time by the pool. Not sure what's going to happen, so keep an eye on our Twitter feed. Keep an eye on the website. I'm sure Hef will tweet out what's going on while I am missing in action. Any parting word before I come back to you in 2 weeks' time?
I did give you 10 seconds to pump up your own tyres for Tip and Cantlay, but that's gone that moment.
You're doing the pumping.
I went on holiday and did the show, so I don't know what your problem is.
You did too. I forgot about that.
You do what you do, Smatho. That's what we've come to learn about from you. All the best. Make sure that hibiscus is in the right spot and come back in one piece, mate.
I think
I'll see you there on Tuesday, actually, after I win the Queen's birthday slate.
Yeah, I think it's the left ear. I have to Google that again. I don't want to be short.
8 all in the Origin, Smatho.
8 all in the Origin? How many minutes?
Too many. Actually, if you can get some in it, I would love to see you with a bowl of Carver on next week's show. Just get those lips tingling.
Get the Carver. Live from Fiji.
See what you can do for us.
All right. We'll sign off here. Big show this week. Look, massive pulls again. As I said, any suggestions for the show, hit us up on our Twitter feed. Hef, thanks for joining me tonight. Big show. I might catch the last couple of minutes of State of Origin, and we'll see everyone very soon. Thanks, Hef.
Thanks, mate. Bon voyage.
Thanks, Marty.